Hello everyone, I'm Pavni and welcome back to my channel. Irrespective of whether you're a student or a working professional, giving presentations, be it online or in person, is a very important part. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I'm going to share my experience. Just before I need to give any presentation, be it online or in person, I feel very anxious and nervous. And I also have this fear that what if I freeze while I'm giving presentation? Or what if I don't know the answers for the questions that the audience have for me? Now, all these things will further add up to our nervousness. So there are few little things that I do before I go into a presentation, and I have observed that it helps me a lot in order to maintain my calm and also to feel confident, and also with my preparation in order to give a good presentation in front of my audience. So in this video, I'm going to share with you all that what kind of preparation I do before I need to give a presentation, whether it is online or in person. A little reminder before we go into our video, in case you find it to be helpful, then please do subscribe to the channel and also share it with your friends. Now, I know that subscribing or sharing the video, it doesn't cost you anything, but it acts as a major motivation boost to me. So please do consider that. The first thing that I do is to make an effort to know my audience. Once we know that what kind of group can we expect during the presentation, it will help us to draft the presentation material in a much better way, and we can quote or we can use examples during the presentation which our audience can relate to, and that will further enhance the effectiveness of the presentation. Also, if we know who our audience is, then it will help us to draft the whole flow of the presentation in a much better manner. Now, for example, if I'm going to give a presentation on, say, AI or say data analysis, and if I know that my audience is going to be a mix of technical as well as non-technical people, then I will make sure that my presentation does not contain any technical jargon, any technical language. And I will also make sure that I use very generic example so that the entire audience can understand and also relate to it. Now, once we have decided the flow, then we can create our slide deck or whatever material we want, and then we can do a quick dry check to see if the transition from one topic to another during the presentation is happening in a seamless manner, and also see from an audience perspective to understand if the flow, if the transition is making any sense or not. And while we are doing the dry check, we will also have an understanding to see that during the presentation, if we need any props or cards, etc., which we can use as supporting material while we are giving the presentation. Now, the next hack that I'm going to give you is something which I learned from my school teacher, and I have been practicing this since my school days, and it has been so helpful that I highly recommend you to try it out. So before I go into the presentation and while I'm doing my practice or a dry run, I stand in front of a mirror and practice. Yes, you heard it right. It might sound silly, but hear me out. While we are giving a presentation, most of the times I used to freeze when I would realize that many people are looking at me or all the eyes are on me, and it used to make me feel very conscious. So if I'm practicing in front of a mirror or like this, maybe capture a video of myself, then I'm actually looking at myself, and that actually helps when I'm talking in front of a larger audience so that I don't feel very conscious. So I would highly suggest you to try this little hack and let me know if it has helped you. Let me know in the comment section if you also do something similar to this. Now, this tip that I'm going to mention now, it might seem very small, but it really helps a lot. So suppose that my presentation is tomorrow, then as a prep, what I would do is that tonight I would take out the clothes, the accessories, the makeup, everything that I would need tomorrow morning. I would take it out, I would keep it ready, and I would even go to the extent of keeping my bag, my water bottle, and everything ready, so that in the morning when I'm getting ready to go to the presentation venue, then I need not have to make any decisions like, oh, which dress am I going to wear, what are the accessories that I'm going to use, etc. So this little presentation also really helps when you are in a hurry the next morning. The first thing that I do is to eat light and also drink lots of water to stay hydrated. Now, I believe that our mood and our level of calmness, it highly depends on the kind of food that we take. And on the day of presentation, it is very important for me to feel light and also to feel calm instead of anxious. So I take great care in what I'm eating before I go into any presentation. Now, the next 2 points that I'm going to mention, you might have heard it many times, but let me repeat it for you. Make sure that you reach in case you are having an presentation which is in person, then make sure that you reach the venue, say some 20 minutes or even half an hour before, so that you can go there, you can plug in your laptop and other appliances, have a quick dry run, see if all the projector, everything is working as expected or not. And you can just have a quick check of the slide deck as well, just to make sure if all the slides are in order or not. So it really helps to reach the venue before the time, so that you have ample amount of time to do these checks. Now, the next point is something which again helps me a lot just before I go into presentation. So if it is an in-person event, and once I have reached the venue before time, I have done all of these pre-checks and everything, and if I have some time, then I make it a point to go ahead and interact with my audience if it is possible. Now, this really helps when you're doing your presentation, because once you have interacted, once you have gotten familiar with your audience, then when you're giving your presentation, if you see those familiar faces in front of you, then that really helps you to stay calm. So this is one thing that I have been doing, and it has really helped me a lot. Now, this point is something which can again seem quite cliche, but it helps a lot. It is very effective. Just before you go into a presentation, just take a moment for yourself, close your eyes and take deep breaths. And believe me, this truly helps in calming you down before you go into a presentation. As per my observation, I see that when I'm going into a presentation, I just feel a little nervous or anxious during the initial 3 to 5 minutes. And once I am in the flow, then it is completely all right. So during these initial 3 to 5 minutes, I try to keep the mood very light and very informal. Maybe start in a very light manner, play a video in the background, or play a video just to get started or something like that. And while the video is playing, I have some time to settle down, and then I'm fine and I can just go with the flow. Once I have gotten started, and when I'm talking or when I'm giving the presentation, I try not to look at just one person or towards just one direction. I keep looking at different people, and I move towards different directions wherever the audience are sitting. Now, this helps in two ways. One, the audience feels that you're interacting with everyone, so that is a plus. And the second thing is that, remember, I initially said that I interact with the audience before I go into the presentation. So while I'm looking around, if I see any familiar faces or any smiling or friendly faces, then obviously it gives you a boost of confidence. So this also helps me. The third thing is to remember that it is okay if I don't know the answer for all the questions that the audience has. Now, it is quite obvious that before we go into a presentation, we do lots of homework, we do lots of research and reading, but sometimes it might happen that the audience will have some question for you for which you do not know an answer, and that is completely all right. Now, here's what I do. Suppose that the presentation that I'm giving to the audience is conducted as a series of session. Then what I do, I take the questions, I say that, okay, let us come back to this before we begin our next session so that we have time to discuss our topics for today. And before I go into the next session, I make sure that I have answers to the questions that my audience have asked me so that we can discuss that. But suppose if it is not a series of session and if it is just a single session, then what you can do is that you can float around a Google form or else any form amongst the audience to collect all of the questions along with their email IDs. And then you can send them the answers through an email. And in that way, I handle these kind of scenarios. Last point that I'm going to mention is also related to what we just discussed. Now, if the audience has asked me any question, then I try to have my answer in 1 or 2 sentences, which is relevant to just the question which they have asked. Now, this helps in 2 ways. It ensures that you're not diverting from the topic of discussion that you have during your session. And the second thing is that if you divert into other topics, then you will start getting questions on those topics as well, and you do not want the discussion to go in some other way, right? So just stick answering to the question that you are receiving and try to keep it clear, crisp and concise, and that will help you in turn. And before we go into our next section, a little reminder to you that if you're liking the video so far and if you're finding it to be helpful, then please like the video, subscribe to the channel and also forward this video to your friends. The first thing that I do after my presentation is that go through the questions that I have received throughout the presentation. And in case I have committed that I would be sending the answers to someone or anything like that, then I do a quick follow-up activity on that. Depending upon the type of presentation, sometimes you would also want to collect feedback from the audience. That is in case you have collected their emails or anything like that. So this is a good point to send out your feedback form and also a little thank you email. And finally, do a quick retrospection of the session that you have had. Now, some things during this session could have gone in your favor, and maybe there are few things which did not work well as per your expectation. So after a session, if we do a quick retrospection to understand what went well and what did not go well, then it will help us when we are preparing for our next presentation or our next session. Now, these are the things which I do when I prepare for a presentation or when I'm giving my presentation, and I hope that it helps you all as well. And before I say bye, a little reminder to subscribe to the channel and also like the video and share it with your friends. I will see you all very soon in a new video. Till then, take very good care of yourselves. Bye.